FM. Because raising kids takes more than just good intentions. Good afternoon and welcome to EKCO Wise Parenting here on Life 97.5 FM, brought to you by EKCO Nation and the Massy Foundation. We want to say good afternoon, Shernell. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Gazi. Good afternoon, Lifers. I am doing great on this wet Tuesday evening.
Beautiful Tuesday, I say.
Beautiful indeed.
All right, so today we have a very special guest with us. Last week we were talking about digital readiness. This week we're moving on to talk about digital literacy. And here in the studio we have Mr. Maurice Beckles, Senior ICT Associate at UNICEF. Is UNICEF Eastern Caribbean. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, guys. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm excited to have this discussion with you. So persons may not know what ICT is and what you do. So quickly, let us know what is ICT, and quickly, what do you do? What is basically your portfolio?
Certainly. So as you mentioned, my name is Maurice Beckles. I'm the Senior ICT Associate for UNICEF Eastern Caribbean area. ICT stands for Information Communication Technology. It's pretty much everyone uses it. Nowadays, from your smartphone to even your smart television, WhatsApp, apps, anything, even cars. A lot of cars, have a lot of technology integrated into them now. So in terms of my specific portfolio, I cover the ICT portfolio, which is ensuring that our office has ICT implements, persons are connected, printing, and all this sort of thing. But more importantly, I cover a portfolio called the Technology for Development portfolio. And that's where we use technology to enhance the lives of young people, whether through partners or directly. And that's where we have lots of interesting work in terms of, for example, platforms like YouReport, where we allow young people to communicate and to share their voices and opinions online. We have lots of digital literacy programs. We support governments and other partners to ensure that young people have equitable access to technology and to put them on sure footing for their future in the world of work and beyond.
Okay, so you're right up the avenue that we are in, talking about digital literacy. And no, before we give, let's work with a little definition first. Digital literacy, as we are talking about, is really refers to an individual's ability to find, evaluate, and compose clear information through writing and other media on various digital platforms. So it helps you to talk about finding, evaluating, and creating and communicating that information on digital technologies. And the question I first have to ask you, someone who's in it, you're doing it at a national level. We have natural literacy and we have the numerical literacy. Do you see, as English and math for other people, do you see digital literacy as a critical skill for our development as a nation and for young people today?
Certainly. And just one point to add, we work regionally. So UNICEF Eastern Caribbean covers 12 countries, English-speaking countries in the English-speaking, 12 countries in the English-speaking Caribbean. Yeah. Correct. So yes, digital literacy is absolutely important. From fundamental things like word processing, being able to, to create a digital CV, to be able to apply for jobs online, etc. But even things as mundane as using government portals, for example, filing your taxes, registering your vehicle. Most business processes today are moving towards digital. It's cheaper, it's quicker, reduces wait time. So being able to navigate the digital world is absolutely important for young people, because it's going to comprise an ever increasing portion of what they do, right? So for us, we're enjoying it. We're on the crest of the wave. But for young people, like let's say in the next 20 years, as more technology becomes available, more than 70-80% of what they do is going to be connected to some type of device or technology.
All right. So you mentioned that I know a lot of parents who are listening may think that, hey, my child has a laptop or tablet or a phone and they do all these things and playing games and that type of stuff. But with our experience in schools, we've realized and getting feedback from teachers and so on, many times, even though children are on devices, they are not digitally literate. In other words, they don't know how to use emails. They don't know how to certain etiquettes pertaining to communication and so on. Why is it that parents, or why do you think parents, it is critical for parents to invest in ensuring that they have those literacy skills, and what does that look like? What does digital literacy look like?
Sure. So if you take a step back, and I like the analogy that you were using earlier when you were looking at, traditional literacy in terms of reading, writing, arithmetic, and looking at digital literacy, we have to understand that it is a fundamental skill now. It's not something you can bypass. Right now, if you are digitally illiterate, you have to get someone to help you file your taxes, or you have to get someone to help you to utilize a lot of portals, online banking, etc.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not
So
even cost you.
exactly, right? So is a fundamental skill that young people will need to have to navigate the world. Now, in terms of our role as parents, one of the themes I wanted to share with you guys was the whole idea of digital guidance and not digital policing, right? I think that's foundational in terms of where we want to go. Sometimes parents are afraid of the technology, or they don't know how to use the technology themselves. And even though children are using these things, we tend to be technology consumers and not necessarily technology producers.
Right.
So there's a bit of a gray area there that we now have to navigate, both as a parent, as a child, and even as educators, policymakers, etc. So we have to begin on this digital journey together. Right. So as a parent, I would say, you want to guide and not guard. We aren't omnipresent.
And not only guard.
Correct. And not only guard. Correct. We as much as we would like to be omnipresent, we won't be. Our children need to be able to navigate the digital world on their own. And to be able to do that, we need to start with incremental steps, having conversations with your child, learning together. Hey, you see your kid watching a YouTube video. What's that you're looking at? Or they're laughing. Share the joke with me. Let's engage around these technologies. What do you think about AI? Right? And you may not necessarily know yourself as a parent, but here's the opportunity for you to grow and learn with your child, these sort of shared journeys as you start to navigate the digital world together.
And we always tell parents that even if you don't know, there are organizations like EKCO Nation and different organizations that, as you would have mentioned, that provide those PowerDOS, that provide those training platforms. But then there's the good old Google.
Correct.
And all these all the AI agents built into your browsers now. Now, you mentioned some things in terms of learning together and doing certain things together. One of the things I realized in terms of when we went into schools, and I believe that this may be a program that the Ministry of Education is now addressing in schools. A lot of children didn't even know how to do search or safe search. I do not want to start the conversation of AI, but I will still just prompt on that, prompt intended. And even the whole idea of how to use now prompting is going to be a critical skill now with interacting with AI and so on. So how can parents now understand what we would call the bare-born skills, things like understanding what a browser is, how the internet web address is set up, and those things? Are those skills that children need to know today, especially if they're going online, they're interacting with people online? We hear about scammers and phishers and all these things, and we know about disinformation and misinformation. Why is that important for their safety and security?
Certainly. So there are lots of resources available, right? There are partners such as yourself, EKCO Nation. The UNICEF website has lots of resources, right? There's also the International Telecommunications Union, ITU. They have a website that also has resources around using the internet safely and supporting both parents, children, and their caregivers on how to use the internet safely. Sometimes it's as simple as you mentioned, going on to Google or YouTube and asking, to watch a video, searching for a video on how does the internet work, or how does a browser work, or how do I teach my child to browse safely. One of the challenges though is that verifying that information, ensuring that you're getting that information from a solid source. And I think you were alluding to that in terms of, with children browsing. And here's where it's an exercise in critical thinking, right? Looking for information from recognized partners such as yourself, the Ministry of Education. And I also think the Ministry of Education should be commended in terms of the curriculum, introducing IT into the schools at the primary level, etc., to give the children that early footing. So in a lot of cases, we'll find some of this curriculum is covered in the schools and can be augmented by, summer camps. Like every year around summer, you see different partners having, science camps.
We
Correct.
will be having a summer camp. Look out for that.
Correct. So, you look around, you try to leverage your resources. And, I think there was a game show that had this concept of phone a friend, right? Don't be afraid to phone a friend. We all know someone who works in ICT. You try not to overdo it, but, you can always reach out and ask a question to say, hey, this is happening. Can you point me in the right direction?
All right. So Abraham Lincoln said this: the thing about the internet is that you can't believe everything you see online. I'm going to ask you this question. What do you think? Is Abraham Lincoln through in what he said, that you can't believe everything you see online?
Well, for starters, I am quite certain that Abraham Lincoln was not alive while we had
you caught me.
the
You
internet.
caught me.
Right? No, but that's a great segue into looking at protecting children online. We have a lot of phishing going on. We have scams. We have issues with online bullying, cyberbullying, all these sort of things. And it's really like, how do we support our kids in navigating these spaces? Because you can't always protect them. And, helping your kids to think critically, to learn how to verify sources on their own. So for example, something is going wrong on social media. You may check one of the national newspapers to online to see if, there's a similar report.
What you said, checking national newspapers, what is that? I mean,
no, there's I think
the paper was the paper.
Well, there's a newspaper, there's the print media, but I'm quite sure.
I'm just very much for the Nation News.
Has a website.
Definitely there.
Correct.
So listen,
And there are others.
that's so interesting. The reason why is because once again, maybe going to schools, these are things that we learn from children. We connect with the children, and we ask them, for instance, where do you get your news? And for them, if it is not viral on social media, or if the news agency is not on social media, they don't get the news. Furthermore, they don't necessarily read the news. They know how to read captions and watch videos. And so all of these things are really necessary. When we teach digital literacy on our curriculums in schools, we usually give students a site, and we ask them to go and check out this site. I don't know if I should let the cat out of the bag, but the whole idea is that this website is completely satire, and it is pulling on something that the children are passionate about. And we would normally ask the question at the end, why are you so passionate about this area? And they will go through this thing and say, but sir, you need to defend this, and you need to think about this and that and that. And you can see all this passion coming out. And at the end of the day, we say to them, do you know that this does not exist? All that you are getting passionate about is a facade. It's all satire. And they were like, sir, how do you mean this ain't real? And we give them clues like, in the actual content, it says this is not real. but they missed all of that. It was just the pictures, it was just the stuff that stood out. And I also have friends who will contact me every now and again and say, well, hey, I see this new opportunity online. Could you tell me if this is great? And they would go and they said, automatically no, because there are big red flags in the URL and certain things. So I think when we talk about digital literacy in terms of the skill set for children to survive, we talk about phishing and people who are scamming. Why is that necessary even from a social hacking standpoint? You were talking about social hacking before.
Yeah, social engineering. Yeah.
Yes, engineering.
Yeah. So for sure. So if we sort of boil it down to the root issue is critical thinking.
Right.
There's no African prince that wants to give you $1 million. We used to get those emails back in the 90s, right?
Correct,
we dating ourselves. But now it's more sophisticated. It's, hey, it's your cousin and I was in the UK and I lost my passport. Can you FedEx me, $500? And it's coming from your cousin's number because someone has spoofed his phone, right? So of course the attacks have become more sophisticated, and that's why critical thinking is so important across the board, right? Critical thinking skills is one of the most important things we need to be able to support our children to do. The other thing is that misinformation travels, what's the old saying? Bad news travels at the speed of light. Misinformation travels very quickly and it can often become viral. And being able to support children, with frameworks, simple frameworks, like we have one, it goes question, check, and confirm. So whenever you receive information, the first thing you do is that you question it, you think critically.
Even if it comes on TikTok?
Correct. Especially if it comes on TikTok, right? Even if it appears to come from a trusted source, you have to think critically about the information that you receive. And then you start to process it and go, how can I verify this information? If this, let's say, there was something going viral on social media, that something happened on Spring Garden, how can I verify that information? I can check local news websites, I can check other social media, I can contact people. And funny enough, there's a website, I can't remember the name, but they have cameras all over Barbados. You may be able to log into that website and check the camera, right? So there are different ways that you can verify the information and then confirm. Because usually if something is quite major, there will be some type of national announcement, or there will be something coming from an authoritative source. For example, like the school, if something happened at the school, it's going viral, you don't know if it's true or not, I guarantee you by the next morning when you get to school, the principal or the deputy principal or someone is going to say something about it. So it's really about that base critical thinking skill, and not responding in haste, not being quick to share things.
And thank you.
Yeah.
That's so important because the whole idea in terms of the viral nature of social media, if something is viral, you want to be a part of what everybody's doing. You don't want to miss out. And so the whole eagerness to send it, oh yeah, I got this video, check out this video, and you have not checked, you have not verified, you did not, is it question, confirm?
Check, question, check, confirm.
Question, check, confirm. You haven't done those things. And that is so important as parents as well, that we also have that check, confirm, question, confirm, right?
Yes.
Check, question, confirm.
No, question, check, confirm.
Check, confirm.
QCC.
And
right.
I want to jump in there because Maurice said earlier about guidance. Repeat that line you said about not just policing.
It's not just about policing or guarding, but guiding your children.
Exactly. And for guidance, we need the parents to teach by example.
Yes.
Correct.
And that tends to be a lot of the problems because you just said it. People have the fear of missing out. And to question, check, and confirm takes time though. And I need to be the first one to share this information. So I can't be bothered. I'll check after the fact. I'll send it and then apologize. And sadly, parents, we are teaching by example. Because a lot of the stuff that I get that I do not want on my phone does not come from children. It comes from other adults who I know are parents. So we parents need to check ourselves first and see if we're actually guiding our kids. And that is going to be key if we want our children to have those good behaviors we're talking about.
Yes, and that is so important because even in family chats, I remembered, especially during the time we had COVID and some other things, people will be sending out things that happened. It was like, this never happened, or this didn't happen at this time, or the video might be real, but this was like 5 years ago. It's not happening now. So as we get ready to close off, let me just quickly look at what you just talked about, misinformation and disinformation, and let's just bring some clarity for that. What misinformation is false information that is spread regardless of whether there is intent to mislead. In other words, sometimes people are spreading information and it is false, but they weren't intentionally looking to mislead. They probably got their sources wrong and that type of stuff. And then disinformation is where you're deliberately misleading, or there's biased information to manipulate a narrative or to manipulate the facts or to spread propaganda. And these are the two types of information that you have. So if you could separate them based on the intent, because sometimes news agencies may spread misinformation because they weren't intentionally, they didn't the source, there was something about the source or the way how it was communicated, so it was misinformation. But then there are people who actually create disinformation in order to intentionally promote a narrative or to manipulate a narrative. And it is so important today, especially in the political realm. We talk about politics, we talk about even in terms of how people may use disinformation to get away from school or to get away from certain things, right? All these things we need to be aware of, and this can significantly impact our children. It can impact their safety, can impact their development, and it's important that we as parents, we know, as Mr. Beckles, Maurice said, the whole aspect of guidance. We talked last week about digital readiness, and as parents, you are responsible also in terms of being digitally ready to parent and guide and nurture your family in the digital world. All right, now we talked about digital literacy. We said that the internet is basically here to stay. We're going ahead into this thing. How do parents now navigate this aspect of equipping their children and with the balance of not restricting them? All right, you know that, yes, we talk about media balance and those things. Now, digital literacy is a skill, a critical skill, as we mentioned. How do we balance that equipping level with the restrictive areas? Sure.
So I'll, in the interest of time, I'll give a few quick points to help guide parents along the lines. So the first one is to understand, but don't fear the digital space, right? One of the biggest challenges is that some parents fear the space, so they don't go into it and they leave the children to navigate it on their own. So the first thing is to realize, you're not going to understand everything, but with what you do understand, you go in and you don't have fear. You learn and you adapt and you use it as a shared learning journey along with your child. It also helps build your bond with your child if you're learning together.
Correct.
Talk to your children early and talk to them often. Sometimes we think our kids are too young, and the conversations that they're having at school are well advanced where we think they should be, or where we think we are with them. Promote balance, not just screen time limits, right? I myself can tend to be the policeman. I have an app that controls my son's tablet, and once the time is up, that is it. Shh. But there's some times where it's an opportunity. They may be watching something that's important, they're learning, they may be, National Geographic or something, so you try to balance. You don't want to become too draconian and then, they try to find ways to sneak and use the device. You have a discussion and say, hey, maybe I had enough time on the tablet today. I'll give you some extra time tomorrow if you keep your room tidy or something like that. So you really want to try to promote balance and not just draconian limits. We want to equip and not restrict the kids. So some parents take the extreme position where they don't want the kids to have any devices, but in so doing, you're literally putting your child at a disadvantage of learning the necessary digital skills that they will need shortly. And then we touched on this in terms of modeling the digital behavior you want to see. Thinking about what you post and what you share. If I was the person that was in this accident or this, difficult situation, would I want persons to share this video about me, right? And then leverage positive digital alternatives. So there are lots of apps out there where you can learn, where you can, share safely, look for positive alternatives so that your kid isn't hearing no, 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 but it's a yes, but, so it's a yes, but there's some conditions attached to that. And then overall, just as we guide our kids, we help them then to navigate these digital spaces a lot more safer, right? We empower them so that they then have the ability to use it as a springboard and not necessarily falling into a trap, so that they can then grow and have the opportunities. It's not that we will ever know everything. We were chatting on this just before the show, that every day something changes on the internet, something changes with technology. You will never know everything, but the key is to ask questions and to grow together.
I wholeheartedly support everything you said just now. One of the things I would add to what you said is that we mentioned this already. We have organizations such as EKCO Nation that is there. We are here to serve, whether it's a community group, a parenting association, a church group, or whatever. And sometimes we do our own seminars and webinars. We are here to help families, to partner with families when coming to the digital space and how you can parent better. As we said last week, digital readiness is, from a parenting standpoint, you are still about empowering as a parent. It's still about nurturing, and it's still about protecting. And you are there to empower your children to use the digital technologies safely, wisely, and responsibly. And I think, and as we mentioned before, when they go into the world of work today, in today's world, it is going to be that skill that is going to be part of the criteria for a lot of what they're going to be doing. And being able to have those skills already in terms of applying for a job and all these things, having those skills already, being able to communicate is so necessary. So I really want to encourage you parents, EKCO Nation, we will be having several webinars and seminars coming up. We do have a camp where we will be sharing all this information with we call them 12 teens.
12.
Up to 18, I believe, is what we'll be having in terms of our camp. We're limited numbers, and the reason for that is that we really want to empower these children, but we also want to connect with the parents as well, because we know that this is something that both persons have to be involved. So I want to thank you, Maurice, for coming. Is there any last things you want to share before we run off?
Yes, I just add, so UNICEF, we've been working in the region for quite a few years, supporting, policy and development, but also at the individual and the school level, supporting organizations, civil society partners to go there and assist children in their journey. The parting shot I want to leave is that to encourage parents to have the conversations with your kids, right? To ensure that you have a conversation. That is the basis or the foundation for everything going from there. And, leverage your resources. You share that you guys have a wealth of resources available. Seek out those resources, and you are there to support your child.
All right. Thank you so much, Maurice. This has been EKCO Wise Parenting, and we've been talking about digital literacy and the importance of digital literacy as a fundamental skill for our children. It's not just about numerical literacy, it's not just about natural literacy in terms of reading and writing, but being able to use digital devices wisely, responsibly, and safely. We want to thank you. We are here next week, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. for our EKCO Wise Parenting show. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Up next, we have the Starcom Network News.
Is your home a battleground
Join the movement to change the culture, change the future. Become a monetary partner with EKCO Nation when you donate to our Scotiabank account number 456124. That's 456124. Checks can be written to capital EKCO Nation. Contact us at 254-3526, email econation@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.econation.com for more details. EKCO Nation is registered charity number 1429 in Barbados. We thank you for your continued support.